In this video, we will be learning how to solve equations with variables on both sides. I have 3 examples for you in this video, so stay tuned to each one of them because they'll have different scenarios that will best help you when you're solving variables on both sides. Now the first example is 3 minus 9x equals negative 6 minus 8x. Well, the whole idea here is to isolate your variables. But before we see a variable on either side of the equation, and so we're going to need to combine like terms. And we need to have that knowledge of inverse operations of getting that particular term on the opposite side. So we see that we want to have, I always tell my students, letters on the left. So let's keep our variables on the left and our numbers on the right. So I look right here and I see, hey, this is a negative 8x. So the inverse of a negative 8x is a positive 8x. Now we're going to, what we do on one side of the equation, we're going to do exactly on the same side of the equation to keep this equation balanced. So here we go. We're going to rewrite everything and simplify and combine. So we have 3 negative 9x plus 8x is a negative x equals a negative 6, and then a negative 8x and a positive 8x gives me 0. So now I'm down to my next step. I then see that I have my number, or my number term, my constant term. That is a positive 3. And with the inverse of a positive 3 is a negative 3. So I'm going to add a negative 3 to both sides of the equation to keep it balanced. A positive 3 and a negative 3 gives me 0. So I have a negative x equals negative 6 and a negative 3. I combine those terms together, which will give me a negative 9. Now I see that, wow, I have my variable by itself, but not entirely. I have this negative x, so it's really kind of like a negative 1 here. So I need to divide the variable x by a negative 1. And then I can simplify. And so a negative 1 divided by a negative 1 gives me x. Negative 9 divided by a negative 1, negative and a negative is a positive. And 9 divided by 1 is 9. And so x equals a positive 9 is my answer. So let's go ahead and check my work. And so I have 3 minus 9, and in place of the x, I'm going to put a parentheses. So I'm going to put this positive 9 in, equals a negative 6 minus 8, open parentheses, close parentheses, for that positive 9. So I'm going to put my 9 here, and I'm going to have a 9 there. So let's go ahead and bring everything down and simplify these parts where I'm multiplying two numbers together. So I have 3 and a negative 9 times 9 is a negative 81 equals a negative 6, and a negative 8 times 9 is a negative 72. So I see that 3, this is a positive 3. If I don't see a negative symbol in front of it, negative sign in front of it, I know it is a positive. So I have a positive 3 and a negative 81. That is going to give me a negative 78. And I have a negative 6 and a negative 72. So I'm going to combine those together. So this, it's just, I'm going to add, I have 6 negatives here, I have 72 negatives. So together I will have 78 negatives. Wow, this checks. And so we know that our answer of x plus 9 is, or x equals plus 9. That is our solution. All right, so let's go ahead and erase this. Let's do our second problem. Our second problem is going to be negative 4 plus 5r equals r. So I still have my variables on both sides of the equations. I don't have all my letters on the left, so I'm going to, and numbers on the right. So let's go ahead and move this -4 over to the opposite side of the equation. And how I do that is finding its inverse operation. So the inverse, the -4 is a +4. And I'm not going to put that +4 under the r because I'm not going to combine them. I'm going to pretty much imagine if it was r plus 0 right here. And now I have my constant terms that I can do my simple addition. So here we go, a -4 and a +4 is 0. I'm going to bring down my 5r, keeping my equal signs in line with each other, and I have r plus 0 plus 4 is a +4. Now let's go ahead and in my next step, I'm going to get my variable r, which is a positive r, because I don't see a negative symbol in front of that. I know it is positive, and the same thing here. I know that this is going to be a positive 5r, so I'm going to take its inverse, excuse me, as a -r on both sides. This will give me 5r minus r results in 4r. And a positive r and a negative r cancels each other out or equals 0. And then I have a +4. Now I ask myself, what's attached to this r? A 4. How? It's attached by multiplication. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. The opposite of multiplication is division. And what I do on one side, I do on the other side. Now I get 4 divided by 4 gives me r by itself, or 1r. And then 4 divided by 4 gives me a +1 as my solution. Let's go and check our work. So here we are. We're checking. I'm going to go ahead and write down the equation again, replacing all my variables with parentheses so I can plug in a +1. And we will see how this all turns out. And our goal is to get the exact same number equal to itself at the very end. So here I have a -4 plus 5 equals 1. 5 plus a -4 is 1, and sure enough, 1 equals 1. And it checks out. All right, one more example. How are you guys getting this? Are you guys doing okay? So let's go ahead and get rid of everything, and let's go ahead and write our third example. This third example is -9 with variable p times the variable p equals 44 plus 2p. So right away, I see that here's one variable. I have my constant, and then I have another variable. So let's move this variable all over to the other side. And how do I do that? Yeah, you're right. Finding the inverse operation. So I'm going to add a -2p to both sides. This gives me a -9p plus a -2p because I'm combining like terms here. So combining means adding them together. So I will have a -11p, and then I'll bring my 44 down. Then of course positive 2p and a -2p gives me 0, and it's no longer on the right hand side when I moved it over. So now I'm going to divide by, because a -11 times p, so to get rid of multiplication, I am going to divide by 11 on both sides. Therefore, I have -11 divided by a -11 gives me p by itself. And I have a positive here, so a positive and a negative is going to give me a negative answer, and 44 divided by a -11 will give me a -4 as an answer. So let's go ahead and check. Whoops. Let's be a little bit, spell it correctly here. Here we go, -9. Instead of the p, I'm going to put parentheses for the variable, 44 plus 2 open and close parentheses. Now I'm going to go ahead and substitute in a -4 in these areas. And so I have a negative and a negative is a positive, and 9 times 4 is 36. And then I have 44, and a positive 2 and a -4 is a -8. So I have 36, which equals 44 minus 8 is also 36. Excellent. Great job, you guys. Now, just as a reminder, when we're solving equations with variables on both sides, with the three main things you need to think about. Hey, we're going to combine like terms. We're going to notice where our variables are out at so we can isolate the variables. I've told my students before, letters are on the left-hand side, numbers on the right-hand side, so we get a nice p equals -4 at the very end. And how we do that, we have to know and have knowledge of our inverse operations. So great job today. Look for more videos for practice, and we'll see you again.